Okay, our next section would be our public comment section. This section of the agenda is reserved for people in attendance who wish to briefly address the board. The board requests the comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. People wishing to comment should type comment and your name in the chat box, and you will be recognized. And Donald Lanza will be doing the timekeeping, for that 3 minute time frame. Anyone for public comment? Hearing and seeing no one, we will move on to our next thing, town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. I know March Madness is on tonight, but we'll get through this. So we're moving forward on the Wall Street sidewalk project. That should be out to bid shortly. They had a meeting out there today to talk about moving of some 2 utility poles. We're finally getting that finalized with the approval design for DOT, so that should be out to bid shortly. That's good news. I know there's some people that have been following that. Last week we had a meeting with Connecticut Water. They had an analyst hydrologist take a look at some of the proposals that we're looking to do to help the water situation here in Hebron. I've got an independent consultant looking at that report to verify their findings. We'll be coming in front of the Board of Selectmen with that in the next couple of meetings. We had our Region 8 Health Insurance Consortium meeting this morning, and we went from a 3% that we were carrying from last month down to a 1.5% increase. That's going to use about $530,000 out of our reserves to keep those numbers down. So that would be about a $10,000 savings to the Hebron's budget, I believe, or close to that. And I'm not sure what it's going to do for Hebron Elementary School or RAM, but we should see reductions in all those areas. So that's good news, going in the right direction. And as you know very well, we've been working on Maple Fest, spending most of the afternoon dealing with that, as Tiffany probably knows. But the weather's looking good. I hope that we have a good event. We're trying to keep a positive spin on that, and it's always been a good thing. They've got more vendors than we ever had, and the tractor parade is filling up. So let's cross our fingers and hopefully have a great festival. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments?
I just want to say, when it comes to March Madness, my team's already done because I had Arizona winning it all. So there you go.
Oh.
My bracket's done.
And I know, and I should probably be embarrassed, but when somebody said March Madness, and I was like, huh? So I don't watch any of it. Just don't. My life is too busy otherwise. Okay, our next would be our old business. And the first thing up is our American Rescue Plan State and Local Recovery Funds update. And Andy?
Yeah, thanks again, Mr. Chairman. So it's hard to put a packet together without actually having a meeting. So we just got some suggestions in there. We're not dictating by any means. You don't have to do any of these things if you don't want to, but we're kind of trying to give you updates of where we are. So American Rescue Plan State and Local Recovery Funds approval attaches the updated approval project list. Members of the Parks and Recreation Commission will be in attendance to provide details on 3 requests. See attached. So there's their 3 requests. I'll turn it over to Ken in a minute. We'll let him speak. But then there's our projects approved to date, total $2,504,040, leaving a balance of a little over $300,000 remaining. Town manager is recommending that the board reconsider some previous approved projects or get some updates on projects recommending for review. They include update on the dog park, the HHS ancient cemetery allocations for $100,000, and then I know Mark's on here tonight with the police accreditation. We had a $28,000, and I'm not sure if those monies are still needed or we need more, but I want to make sure we touch base on those. And then projects given prior tentative approval were the town center project storage shed for 30,000. I think they were asked by the board to get some more information. I think they've done that. And then the Hebron Center signage at $35,000. And then if there's any action you guys want to do tonight, that's up to you, but there's a proposed resolution. And then there's 3 items listed below if you want to make any action reductions or additions to that. So we're just trying to be a little bit proactive. But I think, Mr. Chairman, it's up to you and the board. We do have some members from the Parks and Recs Commission that want to talk to the 3 tentative additional requests. They want to talk a little bit about the projects that they were approved earlier in round 1, and they've promised to be very diligent in their time usage.
Okay. Peter, I saw your hand up. Did you want to say something prior to their?
Yes, just a point of clarification on when the 2.5 million is what's been approved by the town attorney. We haven't approved 2.5 million as a board, have we? Am I misunderstanding that?
Donna, we have committed monies for 2.5 million for projects, or is that just what the attorneys approve? I think that's for projects, right?
That is what the selectmen have approved to date. Let me just get to that. This total of 2,504,040 is what the selectmen have approved to date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Ken.
It's Ken on mute. Is he with us?
Oh, no. You want me to go now? I'm sorry about
Yes,
that.
please.
Yes. So good evening. I'm Ken Jarden, the chair of the Park and Rec Commission. Unfortunately, Craig Bryant, the director of Park and Rec, was unable to join us this evening. I'd like to start out by thanking the Board of Selectmen for generously funding the Park and Rec projects using ARPA Round 1 funds. We believe all the Round 1 projects will benefit the town residents for years to come, and we also believe this is a great use of the ARPA funds. I'd like to just give you a very quick update on the ARPA Round 1 projects. The Hammer softball field improvements are completed at Veterans Park. The trail repair materials are quoted, and they'll be delivered directly to the Town Center Trail, the Airline Trail, and the Rainbow Preserve this spring to repair where it's been washed out. The pickleball courts are ready to go once the town agrees on the location. The Park and Rec Commission approved a motion to put the pickleball courts at Veterans Park, where the skate park is currently located. We believe the pickleball courts are a good fit for Veterans Park and should not be held up. We'd like the pickleball courts to be completed this summer if possible. The skate park, the final design and location has not been finalized yet, but it would not be located at Veterans Park. There's just not enough room for both the skate park and the pickleball courts there. There's actually a skate park committee that's going back and looking at the design. There's several residents from town on that committee, as well as the Ram Skate Club that's working on a solution for the skate park. The playscapes at Veterans Park will be requoted with a contract to be signed this spring, and the playscapes installed this fall. There's about a 20-week lead time. Craig's working with the Hebron Schools business manager, so the new playscape designs in town will complement the designs that the schools use, and hopefully they'll be able to get better pricing by combining their orders for those new playscapes. The dog park location has been a challenge. Since a dog park is a permanent structure with one intended use, it's considered active recreation. However, the town-owned land purchased with open space and watershed land acquisition grants cannot be used for active recreation. So much of the town-owned land is excluded from consideration for a dog park, but we're still working that. Still have a committee evaluating properties there. And we do believe the dog park should remain funded. Many town residents own dogs. They need a place to allow their dogs to socialize and run freely off leash. So the Park and Rec Commission still supports the dog park. So now we'll jump to our request tonight. I'm here to request round 2 funding for 3 projects: field lighting at Veterans Park, trail development, and field upgrades at Burn Hill Park and St. Peter's. Joining me tonight, I think they're both on, are two members of the Ram Youth Baseball. Ryan Price is the president and Eric May is the treasurer. Both are also members of the Park and Rec Commission. So let's get started looking at these projects. If you go to the next slide, please. So how exciting would it be to play baseball under the lights? So the plan is to install LED lighting on the 70-foot field at Veterans Park to allow Ram Youth Baseball to host extended play. And other sports could use the field at night also, softball, adult softball, hammer softball, and Park and Rec could host special events on the fields, maybe music concerts. Key thing here, and Eric's going to talk about it more, is Ram Youth Baseball has pledged $40,000 of financial support for this project, which I think is significant for a volunteer organization to pledge that. So here's a cost summary. The material for the lights and poles is about $150,000. To install that is $70,000. There's electrical upgrades required at the park, about $30,000, minus the contribution from Ram Youth Baseball. So it's about $210 what we're requesting for this project. I have discussed this project with the town planner, Matt Bordeaux. Field lighting would require a special permit from planning and zoning, and that would require a public hearing. It may also require a regulation amendment for the planning and zoning as well. But this has been done before. Field lighting is installed at Gilead Hill School, so it can be done again. So if you go to the next slide, at this point, I'll turn it over to Eric May.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight, and hopefully you've had a chance to read the letter. I've been the treasurer for Ram Youth Baseball for about 3 years now. I've been on the board for I think 4 or 5 years, and I would say that it's been an aspirational goal to have a field lighting on one of our fields, but it's a goal that's outside of our reach. With we've raised funds quite well over the past couple of years, but without either town support or some kind of angel investment, it's something we can't do on our own. But we're happy to try to contribute as best we can to this project. And obviously it would be a great benefit to Ram Youth Baseball, but as a member of the Park and Rec Commission, I see it having benefits beyond just youth baseball, and being able to provide an opportunity for a lot more nighttime activities in town. And I think the use of ARPA funds for something that would really be a kind of long lasting impact on the town would be a great use for that, in my opinion. So I guess that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, we'll get to questions at the end, I think is best, so we can keep it moving. So next slide, please. So quickly, this is the layout of the proposal for the field. There'd be 6 light poles and a total of 24 lights directed onto the field. So this was provided by the vendor. The next 2 slides, I won't go into detail, but it's just a backup or for the quotes that were cost estimates. There were several emails back and forth that Ryan Price took the lead on, and so that's how we came up with our cost estimates. We do have quotes from the suppliers, from the manufacturers. So you can keep going. So that's it for the field lighting. That's the first project. The second project is trail development. So what we're proposing here is to increase access to the open space land that town has purchased, and allow safe access to these properties. So if we receive this money, we would hire an outside contractor to clear, develop, mark trails on Hebron open space. That would increase the passive use of this open space by residents in Hebron and surrounding towns. And there's a list of potential properties that we would consider for this. I think the Bernstein property is probably the highest on the list. From what I heard, it's a beautiful piece of property. So we wouldn't be able to do all of them, though. This funding would support probably 2 to 3 parcels worth of work. The trails would be walking paths. They wouldn't be stone dust. It wouldn't be like Raymond Brook Preserve where it's, 8 feet wide of stone dust. There'd be walking paths in the woods with signage and, clear paths. But it wouldn't include labor and materials to create some off-road parking. Similar, again, what we have at Raymond Brook, where there's off-road parking and there's a barrier to keep cars from driving onto the trails. So that's the second project that we're requesting funding for. And the final one is field upgrades. So we're looking to upgrade both Burnt Hill Park and St. Peter's Fields. So the Burnt Hill Park has 2 baseball fields. And after 20 years of that clay just becomes compacted, we're having serious drainage issues on those 2 fields. Those fields are closed due to rain more than all the other fields combined. So Craig has received a quote to change out the top 3 inches of the infield clay and laser level the fields and remove the infield lip. And all of that for the 2 fields is $54,000 from the quote he received. In addition to that, we're looking to upgrade St. Peter's Field. That would require adding fill to the outfield to level it off. And if you've been there, the dugouts in the scorer's booth are in serious disrepair and would have to be replaced. So we don't have a quote on St. Peter's, but I'm estimating probably St. Peter's alone would be another $40,000. So when we submitted this package to the town manager, we asked for $70,000. I think it's close to the $94,000 is what we would need to do both Burnt Hill Park and the St. Peter's Field upgrades. So that's it. Try to keep it quick so wouldn't tie up too long. So thanks again for your consideration. And are there any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead.
I have, unless you want me to ask the electrical question, Stan.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding about that. A comment and then a question or a couple thoughts, and then if I could, then I'll ask a question. The lighting, I love this. I think that when I think about ARPA funds and I think about how we can use those funds to benefit our community, the idea of lighting our parks, it, to me, just falls right into the zone. We've approved a lot of things clearly with ARPA funds. Some of it specific to community, some of it for schools, some of it for the town, some of it for individual organizations. When I think of ARPA funds, I think of using them for something exactly like this, which is the lighting. And I understand we're kind of running out of funds here, and maybe some of the field improvements can be thought of in terms of funding within other town mechanisms for funding. Clearly, that has to be done. So I'm a huge fan of this, and I'm happy to talk about it more when the time is appropriate. But I'm a huge fan of the lighting. Now, then my question, maybe to Ryan, maybe to Ken, I'm not sure, is when I think about veterans, I also am hearing pickleball. I mean, how is there any relative savings when you think about expanding this project at that park to incorporate more of the park, or is it sort of tied to sort of just square footage? If we do it here, it's the same. We just keep repeating it, and it's 200,000, 200,000, 200,000. Or I don't know about the electrical. Could you talk a little bit about if this could be expanded? What would be involved?
Do you mean expanding at Veterans Park?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of extra room at Veterans Park because we looked at locating both the skate park and the pickleball courts there.
I mean, like, did you like the pickleball courts?
Expand the lighting. Expand the
Just the
lighting.
lighting. Just the lighting. No, just the lighting. It's like I think about
I'm
the park
sorry.
and I think about pickleball at night. Is there a way to? Have you thought about could you actually expand it, and what would the sort of the cost be associated with that?
We didn't get quotes on that, but I mean, if it's $250 to light one field, and obviously lighting for baseball is probably more critical than lighting for other activities because of this. The ability to see the ball at night is pretty important. So, so I would think that even if you doubled it, you may be able to light up more of the park with you have soccer fields there and soccer and softball and basketball and pickleball and playscapes. it's a pretty big area. I mean, maybe we could do it in phases. I think it's a great idea because it would draw a lot of people and
I'm just a fan of lighting our parks, and the fact that we're running out of ARPA funds and we haven't talked about this before, I'm concerned because this to me is exactly what we should be talking about within the context of ARPA funds.
Mm.
And so lighting up our parks, I just, get excited thinking about, hey, could we push the envelope here and do more? So I guess maybe that's more of a comment than a question. I know you weren't prepared to talk about that. So I'll turn it over to the other members of the board for questions and comments. Thanks.
So Peter, if if you don't mind, it's Ryan Price. So, I guess what I would say on that piece is, once you make the upgrade, to the electrical, to be able to absorb the lights in the lights that we're proposing are they're all light pollution conscious lighting. But my guess is once you make the upgrade to the electrical service there, you're just essentially talking about, the lighting, the poles, in the footings, right? So it wouldn't necessarily be a full cost, if you were to then put in lighting at the pickleball court. So it would be a smaller project, maybe could be done off a capital expense line, but something that could certainly be explored, but certainly, within the breadth of ARPA fundings as well.
Yeah, and Ken, I know you're a pickleball player. I haven't started pickleball yet, but I do plan on it, so I'm looking forward to that. So it's really, when you talk about funding, my concern or my excitement around this with this funding is it's never something that likely, because of the extent of it, will be easily funded in the future. It probably will never be easily funded. Therefore, this is why attacking it with ARPA funds is, I think, so important. So that makes sense, Ryan. So in terms of maybe the foundational items are there, and it could be a much smaller opportunity later to be maybe considered and have it be more reasonable. So thank you for that.
Dan, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I have a couple of comments. One is, if property can't be found for the dog park, maybe we should use some of that money and bring it to the lighting project. We can't even find land for the public works project, so it seems that would probably take priority over finding land for a dog park. So I wanted to throw that out there. As the active shooter coordinator and working with the emergency management team right now, I underestimated the amount of money that we were going to need to complete all the upgrades and mandates that are attached to that. So before we start handing out too much money, that may require another $20,000 or so, maybe 25. And as Andy mentioned, the accreditation, we may be able to save 10 there. So I'm just trying to throw out some numbers before we get too far out there and spend money on things to upgrade fields before we have an emergency management program to keep the citizens of Hebron safe. So I would also like to, have some time to consider some of these upgrades and discuss it a little further before we actually make a decision. I like these ideas, and Pete, especially the lighting, that kind of brings a new flavor to parks and evening participation where our town kind of goes to sleep at night. So I'm completely in favor of that, but I'd like some time to think about the other stuff. So those are my comments, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Dan?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to quickly reply to Mark's comment. My comment about the dog park location was everyone seems to think that we have all this land in town that's available, but I just want to say that a lot of it's not available for us, but we'll definitely find land. I think St. Peter's Field has a lot of land that would maybe a good location. We're talking about maybe putting other things at St. Peter's Field and making that more of a destination for recreation as well. So we'll definitely find a spot. We just haven't agreed on one yet, but thanks for your comment.
Tiffany?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. I don't want to repeat what's been said because I tend to agree with what's been said. In terms of the dog park, I would agree with Mark. I think that, at this point, with what we have left, I think we have to be incredibly strategic and think through what's the best bang for our buck, right? Because we're looking at only, according to the documentation, about 300,000 remaining. So it's pretty clear what we've already approved and what we've tentatively approved. And now with this new project, we're not going to have enough to cover it all. So I don't know that, we want to make a decision tonight per se, but I would agree with the point of the dog park. I like the idea. I love animals. But if that's a concept that that we're not even really ready to begin to have a proposal on, it seems fitting that we probably have to wait. And I think the only other thing I would offer is, can any of these projects be bonded through the town? We have a AAA bond rating, so I'm curious if any of those might qualify, trying to think of different ways we can get the funding to get some of this done. But I do think we have to think very critically about the amount of money we have left and what will benefit the most amount of people. I'm a big fan of lighting parks at night as well. My husband plays more pickleball than I do. I'm a tennis person, but he goes to Willimantic to play at night because they have lights and we don't. But if we had lights, he'd stay and play here. So those are just my thoughts, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Gail's not with us again tonight, I'm assuming. So my turn. First off, I strongly suggest that we do not make any decisions tonight, especially considering the amount of limited funds. I think we need to get through our budget process first before we make any further commitments. And then, so that's on that. On the electrical, it doesn't, you have installation costs. I don't know if that's including the electrical for the lights or not. And then it says the park electrical upgrade. So is that just the electrical service? Changing it from single phase to 3-phase. And if so, what will you be planning on putting in? Right now it's a 200 amp single phase service. Would you be going to a 200 amp 3-phase, a 400 amp 3-phase? Would you be relocating or changing the point of entry of the service? So there's a lot of questions there that I didn't see any answers to. So I think we would need a little bit better explanation as to just what the actual plan was, moving ahead. And I know it may be being picky, but we've kind of requested the same from other people to have a little bit better idea as to just what the whole thing would be. Has Parks and Rec or planning and zoning given you any indications as to their thoughts on lighting?
So no, I've not discussed it with planning and zoning yet, but I did discuss it with Matt Bordeaux, and he kind of outlined the process that we would go through, but I've not brought it to planning and zoning yet. I wanted to get your input first.
Okay.
And as far as the detail on electrical, if Craig was on the call tonight, I think he'd be able to answer some of that, but we'll be able to get that detail for you on what constitutes electrical upgrade, because he was the one talking to the contractors.
Okay.
So we'll get
Just
that.
Yeah. Perfect. As I say, I think everybody seems to think it's a good project. I think at this time, as I say, we just want to make sure that we do not overextend before we sign on to any other projects. But it sounds great, and we thank you for the baseball's donation or investment, if you will, of the 40,000. That helps. The other thing, and I don't know what's out there, is if there are any grant opportunities for this type of thing. My question or comment on the skate park is, with it being where it is, it's readily accessible to a lot of the individuals that use that skate park. I'm not sure where you would move that would still have that same level of accessibility. And I'm not sure if that's a viable thought or just what. And I don't know the amount of actual property, footprint that takes. That's just something that I'm sure you've been thinking of, but just to reiterate, that aspect of that.
Yeah, we certainly have discussed that. And it's top of the list for that skate park committee, the location of that. A lot of the kids, they don't necessarily go directly from the school to the park because they have to go home and get changed and get their gear and all of that, and then head back. So there's pros and cons to where the location is. We just feel that the pickleball kind of fits more in fits in better with what's at the park, as far as the baseball and the playscape and the soccer.
Is where the wood chips and all of that up at Burt Hill, is that an area that is within the open space, or is that a possible consideration?
That is a
Yeah.
possible consideration. Oh, so go ahead, Andy.
No, I wasn't going to say anything, but that's now that you tapped me, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Please.
That, and maybe Ken will confirm that, but that area that's there now is designated for overflow parking. I know there's piles of chips in there and stuff, but when the park was built,
Okay.
that was designated for that. But that doesn't mean it can't be revisited.
Okay.
Dan,
Anyone
can I
else
just
have-
follow up now? Can I follow up
Yes,
on what you
please.
just said, Dan? I'm not sure about moving the park is a good idea, and just to give you this different insight to it. Not all kids go straight from the school, but with the skate park being down, kids are skating all over town and skating on businesses and skating in parking lots. And we get complaints at the police department about that. And since they're so close by to the park, and that's where they kind of want to be in the center of town and around the park, I don't know about putting it that far away from town, because it's more accessible right after school off the bus routes than somehow skateboarding all the way out from town or school to East Street is kind of a stretch. So just a little insight as we think about that.
Mark, I have a question also for you or Ken, and it would be a visibility type thing. With it being at Veterans Park as compared to someplace else, is visibility on the law enforcement side an important thing also to see what's going on?
Dan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dan, I didn't even think about that, but that's really a good point. We have to consider some of the temptations that youth are exposed to. And, at times, obviously, there's been vaping and marijuana use in the park. That's a spot that we sit at in police cars, and we have a lot of visibility over there. So, and we go in and out of there. So that kind of is a deterrent to it. But that's a concern, and that's a good point. For me as a policeman personally, I'd rather have it there where we can interact with kids. I know the cops, we go over and talk to them over there sometimes. I have in the past. Officer Martinez has. So I like the idea of it staying there, Dan. I think it's a good point.
Yeah. So as I say, just other random thoughts. Yes, Peter.
Just thinking about a comment that Tiffany made, and as well as Mark, and then yours as well. And then thinking about my enthusiasm for something like a lighting project in support of what's been presented, or even as I suggested, could we even expand it? And then I know next on the agenda, we're talking about making some adjustments of some question marks on things that had been previously approved but needed some modification or might change. Should we, back to Tiffany's comment on strategic, because we're running out of funds, there's a number of projects that we have approved that, might be town specific as opposed to, a certain group that we wouldn't want to take anything away, but town specific that are in progress in terms of thought. We've approved them, but they haven't moved forward. Should we be pausing and looking at some of the projects we've approved that haven't started yet, and maybe don't impact, depending on their impact to organizations that may have requested the funds? I'm not looking to disrupt that, but there might be a few things that we strategically should be looking at in the context of what do we do with the balance of the funds since we're running out. So maybe a separate session, but if we look at 2 or 3 of these things with the question marks on the agenda and say, well, we might want to take that out or not do that, well, then we should be looking at that within the context of all of the projects that have been approved and aren't moving forward. And then back to Tiffany's point about strategic, do we have enough money to put where it can have the most impact within the spirit of what the ARPA funds were intended to be utilized for? Should we be, as a board, pausing and looking at some of those as well to make sure that we don't miss out on funding something that together we feel is very important? So it's something that maybe we can talk about. Obviously, it's not the whole agenda tonight, but I'm thinking about that and wanted to put that comment forth before we moved on. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm saying, it's nice to have all these things before us, but I think that we really need to hold off on making any decisions until after the budget. We know just where some of these other things are. At this point, we're still okay, but I don't want to lock ourselves into anything further at this point. And like you're saying, we can discuss, other things that may be out there. So at this point, thank you for bringing the things up. And, I do think at some point, somehow, some of this will go forward. I'm just not sure it's not going to be this week. I'll put it that way. Yes, Andy.
So just before we jump off, and I'm not cutting the Parks and Recs people short, thank you. We also have Holly from the Town Center Project here to discuss the information that was requested on that shed, the Hebron Center, where is it? The Town Center Project storage shed. So she joined us because it was on the agenda as well. So might want to give her a few minutes if Parks and Recs is over.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you
Thanks
for
everyone for joining us. Thank you.
So, okay, Holly,
Hi, Dan. Hello, everybody.
hello.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you guys tonight to discuss the Town Center project's need for some ARPA funds. I know that back in January, Donna was nice enough to present a letter that gave a little bit more information about what we were looking for. And I think that some select people had a couple of questions.
Yes.
What came back to me was a little bit more of a breakdown of the requested $30,000 for a storage facility. So not quite sure where the selectmen stand on knowledge about the Town Center project, but we are a nonprofit, 100% volunteer driven. The town supports us amazingly, but we don't have any monetary support from our town at all. Everything that we do, we beg, steal, and borrow. And we do a great job at making things happen in town with begging, stealing, and borrowing. We are in, it's essential for the Town Center project to have a storage facility moving forward for our sustainability, truly. We have 8 snowfolk that need summer homes. We have 18 Adirondack chairs that need space in the winter time. There's just so much apparatus that comes with what we are doing, what we're trying to do. with the center of Hebron. It's very essential for us to move forward with this. So a little bit of breakdown on that $30,000. The material I quoted out, the barnyard, Cloder Farms, for roll-off type sheds. The size that we would need is pretty large. We could get away with a 200 square foot facility for the next couple of years, but growing in the fashion that we would like to see the town center project grow, we will outgrow that quickly. I'd like to see something in the ballpark of a 350 square foot facility. So something along that size is really going to run us about $20,000 from the barnyard. I did submit to Andy a couple of estimates from the barnyard and from Cloder Farm. Obviously, their buildings are roll off the truck ready, and they look it. They're vinyl siding, 10-year shingles, just a different feel than what I would like to see for the town center. I've spoken with Matt and with Craig, Matt Bordeaux and Craig Bryan, and we're all in agreement that wherever we go and whatever we do, how we move forward, it really needs to be into the center of town that this facility is located for ease of access from Parks and Rec and from our volunteers, which is also another reason why we are really strongly pushing towards the country carpenter aspect. Not only is it aesthetically pleasing, but it will last the town of Hebron for an extremely long time. So I did send out a further breakdown of the $30,000 request. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that or not, but so the breakdown really is the material for country carpenters is going to run us about $16,000 to $18,000. Labor to build the facility would run us between 6 and 10. So we're already at 22 or 28. And then there's site work that needs to be done. You know, most of these buildings require just a 6-inch base underneath them of process, which we really estimated in at about $400. And then one guy and one machine. We're thinking for a day to help manipulate that groundwork, which really brings us right into the budget that we were looking for. The low end is 23 and the high end is $29,000. I would like to just express that the town center project has been working towards this goal for about a year now. And we're in this together. We're not, the ARPA funds would certainly be a huge stepping stone for us in making this happen. But we are actively raising funds. We are actively pursuing this situation so that we can make this happen, because it truly is essential to our growth and our future.
Thank
I
you.
know that was I know that was
No.
a lot. Does anybody have any questions or feedback?
Okay, I was going to say, I was going to read, and this is actually from our January 19th minutes, that, you know, the letter was read and that we were looking at if there was a less expensive alternative to the proposed structure, and also the building type that would be a factor. So that's what we're trying to just kind of zero in on, I think, is where the location would be. You know, in other words, you know, St. Peter's Field, it was talked about at the town hall, although that would again need to be addressed, you know, where you would put it there. You know, at St. Peter's Field, there is electricity. So, you know, you would be able to, you know, get a line run over if it was there. Behind the firehouse, I think would be problematic because the fire department does use that as a landing zone for Lifestar. So that could be an issue. utilizing, that site. And then of course the parking lot, again, if it's being used as a lifestyle landing zone and people are parked there, um, that just becomes again problematic. Uh, and then the type of building. So I'm not sure on the base and stuff like that, if that's stuff that our town crew could do. That would be an Andy question. Um, so Andy?
Yeah, I could run it by the Public Works Director. I mean, they do that stuff all the time. They have the equipment to, I think we've put a few down. We just have to put crushed stone underneath before they roll it off the truck, as long as it's leveled up and a level pad of crushed stone. I think that's all that required. We're capable of doing that. And supply the equipment.
So Dan, to address a couple of your comments, the type of a building that Country Carpenters is willing to work with us on is one of their cabins. They would enclose the porch so that the building itself would be a 18 by 20 building. It's very aesthetically pleasing. My first preference would be St. Peter's Field. It's very close to the center of town. If we positioned it in the northeast corner, right up against the stone wall, you would be able to see it from Route 85. So we wouldn't have to worry about vandalism or anyone being in there that shouldn't be in there. And I also think that it would add to that space when that space gets further developed. There's that potential as well. I agree with you about the firehouse field. That's probably my least favorite location. Matt did say that the only thing that planning and zoning would really need from us and from the town is to file permits. He's completely on board with it. And he's the one who suggested these locations.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Tiffany?
I do. So I'm incredibly supportive of the town center project. I think what it's done is bring a lot of people through Hebron, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. But I can't help but ask again. It's a storage facility, right? It's a storage shed, and while I appreciate the intentional focus on having something be aesthetically pleasing, I mean, if we're working with limited funds and we're trying to see what we can do that can benefit the most amount of people possible, I guess I would ask Holly, is there another vendor that we could go to for something that might not be as aesthetically pleasing, but would give us another quote to look at? I'm just throwing it out there. Thank you.
Absolutely, Tiffany, and I appreciate the feedback and your support. I know you've always been very supportive of the Town Center project. I do have another name, Jason, that I am going to be reaching out to talk to about it. I will say the Country Carpenters built all of the Adirondack chairs for us, and they worked very they worked very hard for us through that process. They donated a lot of material. They donated a lot of their time. They also indicated that they would be willing to work with us on this proposal as well. But I am going to be speaking with Jason. I'm apprehensive about investing in something that is vinyl with a 10-year roof at pretty much the same cost. I don't know if you have the photographs or not, but there's one that is an 14 by 36 that literally comes in at $25,000. It's vinyl siding, it's white. I mean, it's aesthetically, it's fine, but it's not what I think Hebron should have in the center of their town. It's great for Burnt Hill Park. It's probably okay for Veterans Park. But for the center of our town where we have our historical value and everything else, I think I think the aesthetic aspect of it needs to be heavily weighed. But I am seeking alternative, another quotation too.
Dan,
Yes, sir. Yes, Mark.
refresh my memory, but I don't think we've allocated anything to the town center project yet, have we?
We gave it a verbal acceptance based on trying to get other information.
Okay,
So-
so I would make this point. We're allocating a lot of money to Parks and Rec, and we have to spread the wealth a little bit. And if we haven't given them anything, we need to give them something. And it is a lot more difficult for 501c3 nonprofits to exist, and it exists through the passion and volunteer work of our citizens. So I'm highly in favor of supporting them. I just think it's fair and the right thing to do.
Okay, I'm going to ask if Donna is still on. Was that original request of $30,000? Has that been earmarked and is part of the money that we have already allocated?
No, it is not.
We did not.
You
Okay.
you had given it tentative support, but it's still below that line. It hasn't been approved, or it's not in that 2.5 million.
Okay. Okay. Pete?
I
Peter?
don't have,
Any-
I don't
Oh,
have, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, so what you're saying is, um, okay. So we're actually, well, we're down to the last 308,000 is what we're saying, 308,674.
That is correct. Yeah.
That's why I think you're right, Dan, is we need to pause. And we need to look at all these items that aren't in progress. We need to make sure that we're strategic. We don't want to lose sight of supporting, this organization or the Parks and Rec in there. But it's an opportunity to look at all these items that are just earmarked, but aren't necessarily moving forward, and get updates. Like I would, even small things like we have 25,000 for heating assistance. It's just an example. I would think I raised that one originally. And
Mhm.
we've had a mild winter. Is that, where are we with that? Has that been expended? Is that, and I think there's a bunch of things that we could probably slow down and really think about this and get caught up, so to speak, with a lot of these items, and maybe just put that as a separate agenda item for the next meeting, or or maybe we put the whole thing on hold for a few weeks and do it after the budget session, whatever you think's right.
I would, as much as I would love to say, let's go ahead with this. I really want to stick to my original comment to hold off until after we get through the budget, just in case that creates some sort of surprises. I think it sounds like we're still all definitely in favor of this project. We just want to verify the pennies are there. Does that help you at all, Holly?
Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. We appreciate the town center project, and myself appreciate your support always. We're in this together. We're raising funds. I'd love to tell you that we're going to come in way under $30,000. I'm not the type of a person to spend frivolously. I don't believe this is free money. I know it's coming from somewhere, probably, obviously my taxes, and yours.
Yep.
So I would definitely not want to take and then utilize right up to the max if I didn't have to. So I'm going to, like Tiffany had suggested, look into another one that will be aesthetically pleasing. And I appreciate your support and the time that you have all given to this.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you. Um, Thank you very much. And as I say, we will be interested to see what this other person comes up with and or if, Country Carpenters comes up with any other possible cost savings, ideas that we could incorporate. And, I'm going to put Andy out or on the limb and see if he could get a hold of Kevin Kelly and see what it would cost or what the cost would be if we had the town crew do the base. Because that could be another some savings for you.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And we have already cast our net out there for volunteers that can shovel and put forth as well.
Okay, perfect.
We'll make it happen.
Yes, that we will. Okay, thank you.
very much.
Thank you very, very
Yeah.
much.
Hey, Dan.
Yes, sir. Yes, Andy, please.
Probably should have done this earlier on, but we have our Kerma representative here tonight to
Oh.
speak at item 7D. So if the board agrees to move that up, I think that'd be appropriate. So she doesn't have to sit through the next items. She's here to speak to any questions for Kerma.
I think that would be very appropriate. Anybody have any issues with that? Seeing heads shake, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Well, my name is Lindsay Strusky. I'm a senior underwriter at Kerma. We provide both the workers' compensation and liability auto property insurance for the town of Hebron and Hebron Board of Education. Before I present the budget stabilization program, I just wanted to give a very, very brief intro to Kerma for those who may not know. We are an insurance pool providing both workers' compensation and liability auto property coverage to municipalities in Connecticut. This is all that we write. So the towns, the cities, the schools, and local public agencies such as health districts, councils of government, fire districts, etc. in Connecticut is our area of expertise. So all the resources you have available for being a member of Kerma, your underwriting team, all of the claims adjusters, the risk managers who are there for training and education purposes are very well versed in Connecticut municipalities. We are member owned and member governed, so everything that we do is at the direction and guidance of our members. You are who we work for. We're always looking to expand our coverage, always looking to respond to hot topics that you're dealing with on the town side and the school side, and really put programs in place that hopefully solve some of the challenges you face in your day-to-day. One of the really positive things we do that makes Kerma kind of unique is our members equity distribution program. So each year our board of directors meets and reviews our financials for the previous year that's been audited, where we are in our current year, and where we're going as we move forward. And they determine and declare a total members equity amount. We've been doing this for about 12 years now. We've redistributed about $42 million in total to our members. And not only is it really great to deliver these checks to our communities, but it also speaks to Kerma's financial stability over the long term. So one of the key parts of Kerma's mission, and really why we came to exist, is to ensure the availability of insurance coverage at a reasonable cost, thus creating stability in the marketplace. So one of the programs that came from that is the budget stabilization program, which I'm presenting here for you tonight. This program has been in place for many years now. A lot of our members participate in it, and it's something that's very well received. So what the budget stabilization program is a 3-year mutual commitment between Kerma and the town of Hebron and Hebron Board of Education. It provides you certainty on your budgeting for the next 3 years. So it would be effective 7/1/2023-24 through 7/1/2025-26. And it gives you the liability auto property increases now for the next 3 years. So as you can see, for the 7/1/23-24 renewal, it's flat or a 0% increase. For the following 2 years, it is a 3% increase for each year. The very important thing to note is that those numbers are caps. They are maximum increases. So the actual can always be less than that, but it gives you the budget stability and the certainty that that is your worst case, really, no matter what goes on with your claims, what's going on around us. Those numbers you can count on for the next 3 years. So with that, I will ask if there's any questions.
Any questions? I know I read through it, and we've been with Kermit for, God, a lot of years.
Yes.
I'll put it that way, a lot of years. And it's been a good collaborative between Kermit and the town. And, I'll read the motion, but I would suggest that, we vote affirmatively on this. Any questions at all? Yes, Peter.
I just have a comment. Thank you. Being in the insurance industry for 30 plus years and being around many programs, right now am involved with over 80 different programs. We have a municipality program. We all do a lot of work in the commercial insurance space, and this structure is relatively rare. And gets at what is generally the biggest concern for most constituents is predictability and stability, as you've clearly articulated. And so, just a comment is this type of structure is rare, and it's an opportunity to stabilize, as obviously the title suggests, but it's not normal. And it's something that we should be fortunate that we're able to consider, obviously, reflection of a long-term partnership. So it is, it's unusual, and I think we're very fortunate. So I just wanted to provide that perspective because I've been in this space for a long time, and unfortunately, because I just realized how old I am now, but I've been in a long time, and these kind of approaches are very smart to consider. So I just wanted to bring that comment because that's my background. Thank you.
Okay. Make the motion that move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen authorize the Andrew J. Turney, town manager, to enter into the letter of commitment for the budget stabilization program between the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency, CIRMA, and the town of Hebron and Hebron Board of Education effective 7/1/23 through 24 through 7/1/25-26 as presented. Any further comments? Further comments? Hearing none. Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
And myself, Dan Larson, aye. Thank you very much, and thank you for sitting through some of our other things.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Hopefully you'll come to Maple Fest. Starts Saturday. It's a
I'll add
fun
it to my
time.
calendar.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Next, Andy, if you want to start it, or
Sure.
Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I believe we're at item 6B, which would be the Public Works Building Project Survey Committee update. And with us, we have Selectman Casper, who will provide an update on the committee's meetings and status of the proposed survey thus far.
Thank you, Andy. I'll be less than an hour, I promise. Just a quick update. I think it's moving along very well. I appreciate the recommendation for the consultant, DKA. Todd's doing a phenomenal job, and we met yesterday as a group for about 2.5 hours. And ultimately, there's just a couple of things I just want to highlight very quickly. And Mal's on the line too. So Mal, when I finish, if there's anything you want to add, you're welcome to do that. But first, or received an update from Todd regarding his research that he did to best understand sort of the components of what we're trying to achieve. And he's done a terrific job, spent a lot of time gathering the needed information and researching a myriad of topics, which he summarized and we commented on, which, you know, the need for the facility, the feasibility areas for development, you know, in terms of all that went into the Horton property purchase, that history, residents' concerns regarding the development of the Horton property. So he spent a lot of time looking at that and some projected anticipated costs. And then from that, we just spent a great deal of time reviewing the project background information as the basis for developing FAQs. And again, we want an equal exchange of information. We want to make sure the public is well informed so they can then participate effectively in the survey. And then we can draw that information back and educate the board. So we continue to move forward on schedule. The next step being the further development of that background information, which we made a lot of progress on last night. Great participation from the committee across the spectrum of those that are participating. Andrea actually on the line as well as Mal. And then moving forward, next steps, again, developing that from the consultant, getting the survey questions starting to be developed, and then we'll continue to bring updates back to the board as that information becomes readily available. And so again, if Andrea, I see her hand, or Mal wants to add anything to that, I defer to them as committee members, and then we'll be done with our update. Thank you.
Andrea?
Thank you, Peter. I'm Andrea Latanzi, and I'm one of the 5 members on the Public Works Survey Committee. And yesterday we had our second meeting, and it was originally scheduled for 1 hour from 6 to 7, and we recessed at 8:30. So we had some really great dialogue going on for 2.5 hours. And with the committee members, but also with the DKA consultant, Todd. Since we had a chance to have some good discussion and dialogue last night, I came away from that meeting thinking that our group is pretty well-rounded and grounded. Each of us brings a different level of experience and expertise, and more importantly, perspectives on what our charge is here for the to work on the survey and the frequently asked questions document. In our dialogue, the consultant asked us some tough questions, and we also asked ourselves some tough questions. Upon those discussions, realizing that this task is really a multifaceted proposal with a multi-pronged reach, meaning that there are several distinct aspects and elements that we are exploring and uncovering in this task. And we're not talking just nuts and bolts as far as the land and the building, concrete things. We're also talking about how to best inform taxpayers, that they need to be informed with facts, building trust, and with the town to present whatever proposal going forward with how best to do that with credibility, transparency, listening to voters, and building their narrative for this proposal. So far, I feel that it's been a worthwhile and positive effort. And we're next working towards the survey questions and the frequently asked questions document. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being willing to serve on this committee. It was so important to try to get a well-balanced committee with people that are willing to listen and voice their opinions and, try to move forward, whatever direction forward is. So thank you. Mel, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you, Dan.
Andrea, did you have anything else you wanted to say? Andrea?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, okay. Yes, Mel.
Oh, okay. I'm rarely uh, without words, but
That's
Andrea
true.
and Andrea and Pete did a great job. I was going to mention some of the points that Andrea mentioned, and I think the most important thing is that we are a very diverse committee. We have our own ideas. The reason we went for 2.5 hours is because many of us have different ideas. I think this is going to turn out very well in terms of what we're able to produce. And thanks for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next thing is any other old business. Andy, is there anything else, or does anybody else have any other old business to discuss? Hearing none. News. New business. There we go. Still learning how to use this mouth. We have the mandated reporter policy for Parks and Rec. And I see Ken popped up. Andy, did you want to start or?
Just quickly, we're trying to do, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a tickle, I apologize. So just quickly, we're trying to do some housekeeping, and from time to time, these policies need to be updated. Attached is a proposed mandated reporter policy for the Parks and Recs Department prepared by Craig Bryant, Director of the Parks and Recreation, reviewed by the town attorney and recommended by the Parks and Recs Commission. And then there's a proposed motion. So if anybody has any questions, you can probably defer them to Ken, but if you read through it, the town attorneys read through it. I think it's pretty cut and dry, and it's just an update, but I'll open it up or give it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'm going to read the motion and then we'll open it up for discussion with between ourselves and Ken. But I think it's pretty cut and dry, and it's, pretty much state law that anybody that deals with kids, they are this, this reporting agency. Move the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the Town of Hebron Parks and Recreation Department mandated reporter policy as presented. Ken, did you want to discuss this at all?
Sure, just briefly. So this was initiated by Craig. It was derived directly from the Hebron Board of Ed school policy, which applies to all employees of the Hebron Board of Education, including teachers, aides, administrators, staff. So since the Park and Rec staff works directly with many children at the prep, before and after school program on school property, summer camps, basketball camps, which is always working around kids, Craig believed that we needed the same policy for his staff as well. As you mentioned, it was approved by the Park and Rec Commission and also reviewed and approved by the town attorney.
Anybody have any other questions? As I say, this is a very similar to, emergency responders, daycare. There's so many entities that who interact with children become obligated by state law as a reporter if they feel that there is an issue that needs to get brought up to DCF. So with that, I'm done. Tiffany?
If we're voting, Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
And myself, if you want, I mean, I can talk for another no, aye.
Thanks,
I think
Ken.
Peter would crawl through the phone and
Thank you.
choke me. Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, too.
Okay, the next one, I'll turn it over, I don't know, Peter, whatever, because even though I'm retired, I'm still involved. So. And if you want, I will leave.
What do you want me to do?
What's that? No,
Did you? Okay.
I will, go in the other room and Andy can call me if you want. As I say, this is a company that I worked for, that I've sold. I am actually very close to only working maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but because I'm still involved, uh, I turn it over to your body to make the decision. And as I say, I don't know between you and Andy how you want to handle it, but if you want, I can, as I say, leave and just call me. I'll come back in.
You should probably just abstain, right? But there's no reason.
I'm going to abstain.
You don't need to leave. I don't think.
Okay.
Listen,
Well, as I say, I offered it. I offered it.
I mean, if
last
someone
time.
else disagrees, I don't.
It would be appropriate to recuse himself, not abstain. You want to
Oh,
recuse yourself.
okay, recuse.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thank you, Donna.
Don't make me spell that. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's up to you, people. Whatever you want to do.
I can take it if that's okay with Peter.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Please.
Okay, so Dan's right. You probably should shut your camera off at least so you don't show any facial expressions or stuff like that if you want to be technical. And we'll just
Well,
reach out.
he should mute his microphone as well for possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now we got to get his attention.
Can someone who's hosting mute it? I mean, you
Yeah,
should,
can you
the
mute it,
person
Donna?
who's sharing should have those privileges to just mute his mic.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah. He should mute. Yeah. Or she should mute him.
I believe Donna can mute.
There we go. Yep. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andy.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for doing this the proper way. So if we get questioned upon it, so every year or actually 2 or 3 years now, we 2 years. We do an RFP for this, and the next one would be for the plumbing for the town buildings. So under 7B, this is award a bid for General Electric and related repairs. An RFP for General Electric and related repairs was recently conducted with 2 proposals being received. Summary is attached. The town manager is recommending award we're bumping this up to 5-year contracts for Professional Electric Corporation of East Hampton, Connecticut, the current contractor who has provided the services and is, in my mind, the best price. And then there's a proposed motion. And we did try to solicit other firms as well, but we only ended up getting 2 bids.
How long has Professional been doing this for the town?
Great question. At least this whole last contract, and if I'm correct, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, the one before, I believe.
I believe it's even longer than that. It's been quite a while. The last few times we've gone out to bid, we have received very, very low response.
Why? And I don't want to belabor this, but why, Donna, do you think, or Andy, we don't get a response?
That's a great question. I just want to make it clear. I actually reached out to the contractor that does the work for the town of Colchester, our neighboring town. And I requested him to bid. And I'm not sure if that's the one that did bid. I think it is. But he was a little bit more money per hour. So
We advertise it in the newspaper, on our Facebook page. That list of vendors on that spreadsheet, we send it to them directly. We mail it to them, and then we follow up. And the same thing happens with the plumber. We go through we keep a list of vendors that have expressed interest over the years to provide service to the town. We go through that list. There is a requirement that they be within a certain distance. So we're not going to entertain proposals from somebody, on the complete other side of the state or somebody in Massachusetts, because we need a timely response for emergencies. But really, that's the only restriction that we have in our RFP. So it's just, that's all we got.
So the no bids, are they just ignored the request? They didn't respond?
No response at all.
I got it. No, I just trying to understand it. Thank you.
I have a question if I can hop in. Is that okay?
go ahead.
right.
You're on the board.
About how much do we typically pay for electrical services on an annual basis? Do we have an estimate, a figure of that?
I don't, and I don't know if Donna does that either. I don't know if we've ever told it. I don't think it's a lot of money, but I don't want to speculate either. We could-
I do not know that number.
No.
I'm sorry. We could get it for you, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
I just think that's helpful for the future when we consider bids like this. I think it's helpful for the selectmen to kind of have a full contextual view of how much we're paying annually, for the past couple of years when we're considering services. So I would just ask in the future if we could have that contextual information. That'd be very helpful for me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we could do that. But I don't think we've done that in the past, but we can definitely add that.
I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. I mean, I'd like to know now myself, now that you asked the question.
Yeah, maybe it's $5,000, Tiffany. We're spending way too much time talking about it.
It depends.
I don't know, right?
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, is it $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 contract, or just a $5,000 contract? It's a good point in the future for us to understand.
If I had to guess, it'd be more closer to a 5,000 than.
No, I know. I use that as an extreme example. I apologize.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I would say, and I hesitate to say this because, like in the spirit of collaboration, we're a good board. We work well together. I do have hesitation in awarding a bid to someone who sits, on the board of selectmen. I mean, I know that they have since sold the business. But I'd be reticent to not mention that, I think that's, as we move forward, something we should consider, right? Because I think perception is sometimes trumps facts in terms of lowest bid versus higher bid. But that being said, I'm not going to stand in the way of progress tonight. So I don't know how you, Peter, or Mark feel, but I at least want to go on the record as saying that.
Peter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree with Tiffany, but if it's legal, it's legal.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perception is something. But if we've done this in the past and it's legal, I guess I have no objections to it.
Okay. I guess we can read the motion and or vote. So you could put that back, please. So we move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen award the bid for general electrical and related repairs to Professional Electric Corporation and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, town manager, to sign the contract documents in accordance with the bid specification. That's the proposed motion. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay, and any abstentions. Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter Casper, aye. We've noted Dan Larson has recused himself, and so the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So wait for Dan to come back. Let us know when Dan's back.
Let's keep going. I want to make another motion.
It's fun.
Maybe Tiffany and Mark, you make the next one. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's do this.
Hey, good job, Peter. That was good.
Dan, are you back with us?
We have, while he comes back, we have a quorum, so why don't we continue, Andy?
Is
I don't
somebody
know how to
let
reach
him know?
him. What's that?
Was somebody supposed to call him?
Somebody probably should.
Yeah, I wasn't even prepared for this at all, so,
I just saying.
yeah.
All right, so I'll let you guys discuss the next one. Next one is item 7C. Award the bid for the general plumbing and related repairs. An RFP for general plumbing and related repairs was recently conducted with one proposed bid received, summary attached. The town manager is recommending award of the 5-year contract to Bradley and Sons Plumbing LLC of Marlborough, Connecticut, the low bidder and current contractor who has been providing these services. And then there's a motion. So I'm going to mute my thing and call Dan.
Okay. And we'll tell
You know
the board members, there's nothing to preclude us from ever making a motion. So we sort of fallen into that routine that the chair makes all the motions, but that's really
That's true.
not
That's true.
how it normally works. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying we can continue if we so wish. I'd like them back, but
I think the same thing here would apply. I know Andy's on mute, but I think again, for bids like these moving forward, I would find it helpful to know exactly how much we're spending per year on these services and how that aligns with the bids we're receiving. And I also notice here again, we only received one bid. So, is that, did we run into the same issues? Is there, plumbing and electrical are two different industries. So I'm just curious why we only received one bid here as opposed to two for the electrical services.
So to answer your questions, once again, I did the same thing. I put the extra effort into just advertising it. We reached out to different firms that expressed interest. We sent them the bid and they just didn't bid like two times in a row. And same with the other firms. As far as the cost, I'll send that out. We can pull that information up tomorrow and I'll send that out to the Board of Selectmen, seeing it was inquiring. But just bear in mind, it depends on the year we have, what breaks, what doesn't. That number is going to fluctuate greatly, but I don't know if there's a maintained number for each year, but we'll gladly share whatever it is we paid for this last year or the previous year if we still have that information.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just had a question. Welcome back. Oh, you got to take yourself off of mute, brother. Or maybe Donna has to take you off of mute.
Oh, I think Donna has to take him off mute.
Donna has you on mute, Dan. So
Yeah.
she's deciding whether or not to take you off mute. We'll get back to you. Hold on, Dan.
Oh,
There he is. Or there he was.
Now you got to take yourself off now, probably, Dan, because she did open it up. There you go.
Did.
There he is.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm sorry. What was the question?
We were starting to ask a couple of questions. So the motion has not been read yet. We were starting to ask a couple of questions, and I had a question, but I can wait if you wanted to follow your normal protocol of reading the
Yeah,
motion.
we can read it and then go for questions. And move the Hebron Board of Selectmen award the bid for general plumbing and related repairs to Bradley and Sons Plumbing LLC and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, town manager, to sign the contract documents in accordance with the bid specifications. So open it up for discussion.
I just had one question. Donna, if she's, I'm assuming she can hear me. When you had mentioned the parameters, so my guess is that the hourly rate maybe it doesn't align or whatever, but it's $95 an hour. Did we give a range and that was the top range? Did we give a range at all? Or, I just was curious about the hourly rate and what we put out as specs relative to what we asked for, and how did that come back in alignment with what the range that we put out there, if we put that out there?
We do not put out a range.
Okay.
And Bradley is our current plumber, and I think his current rate is $90 an hour. And he's been our plumber for several years now also.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, just to bring some perspective to this, I got some plumbing quotes because I'm a carpenter, not a plumber, and I got hourly rates as high as 125.
Yeah.
And nothing lower than that. So that's certainly a good bid. And my electrical quotes were higher than those quotes too. So I don't feel like we're getting taken advantage of.
No, historically, right now, most of your trades are anywheres from probably the low end 95 up to 125 or more an hour, and people are paying it. And then the overtime rates, there's companies that are hitting double time now, which I just can't do that.
At some point,
You
it's
know,
gonna
I
be cheaper
refuse
to
to
have.
penalize somebody because somebody thing broke down at an inopportune time. I just think that's wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
it is wrong. At least morally wrong, it feels like. And I'm getting close to, I'm gonna ask my attorney to do the plumbing and electrical work, because it's gonna at some point be cheaper to hire her to do it. But,
yeah. But I mean, this is, you know, a lot of companies. I think part of the problem is right now with labor shortages, a lot of the companies are saying, "Gee, if something happens at an inopportune time, I can't meet the bid requirements of having somebody on site within a reasonable period of time to get it fixed." You know, especially some of the smaller companies. Um, I am surprised that some of the bigger companies didn't put in numbers, but they probably realize a lot of them, they want $150 just to get to your doorstep. Then the clock starts. You know, so I'm sure that, you know, those companies are like, there's no way anyways. They're just not going to be competitive. You know, so that's kind of a little bit of sideline on it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing or seeing the motion, all in favor of, you know, Bradley and Sons, getting the, award for the bid for the general repairs, signify saying aye. Can't talk after eating that apple. Tiffany,
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
and myself, aye. Okay, Andy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome back. Next is the heating and diesel fuel approval bid waiver and award the contract. So you being the ex-fire chief, you might understand what we're doing here. So attaches a memo from the finance director, Elaine Griffin, requesting a bid waiver for the heating and diesel fuel contracts. The recommendation is to award the contract to East River Energy, our current vendor, for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. So just a quick summary. Once again, whether it's plumbing, electrical, there were only a couple bids. And in a couple bids, we have different locations where we need deliveries. And the other company, I think there was 3 companies, the other company that would have been advantageous would not deliver to the fire station, which automatically rules them out. That doesn't work for us. East River, for some reason, didn't include us by accident or error in the CROG bid. So we reached out to them. They sent us a letter, and they're willing to quote us anyways and take care of us like they are now. And their rate is even lower what they're quoting us than what the CROG bid is. So we would save some money. That's for both the town of Hebron and the Board of Eds that we fuel up. So that's financially advantageous for the town to do that. And everybody knows where commodities are right now, whether it's heating oil or diesel fuel or electricity. So we're recommending that we don't go out to bid and we award it to East River.
I'll read the motion. Move that pursuant to the Hebron purchase policies, section 2B and C, waiver of competitive bid process, that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve a bid waiver for heating and diesel fuel and award the bid to East River Energy for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. And open it up for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
And myself, aye. Okay. Next would be our consent agenda.
We got the draft agenda for the April 6th meeting.
Oh, okay.
April 6th.
So again,
meeting already,
if
we're planning.
anybody, what's that? I'm sorry.
April 6th meeting, we're planning already. Wow, where did that go?
I know. So again, if anybody has anything that they need, added or whatever onto that.
Just a quick
please
question,
get it
Mr.
in.
Chairman. We had obviously had talked about ARPA quite a bit. The fact that it sits there as old business and is noted as an update, would that allow us to get into, I'm just thinking about them, 2 meetings later or a meeting later, whatever comes after the budget session. Is that a good placeholder for whatever we do after and get into this at a later date? Because it's under old business and it says update, is that fine? I'm just curious. As I'm thinking about, do we need to update the agenda, in a few weeks to get into a little more discussion on it? Is that sort of enough to not have to touch that ARPA item?
As long as it's under old business, I
We
don't know,
can ask
Andy or
Yeah.
Donna.
We can put asterisks on it if you don't want to take any action at the next meeting.
Yeah, but if we don't put asterisks on it, that doesn't mean that we have to discuss it, correct?
Well, if it's on an agenda item and you don't asterisk it, then yes, you would have to at least address it. So I don't know did I misunderstand Peter Casper's question or
I don't know. I probably didn't do a good job articulating the question. I just heard that we wanted to get into more of a strategic discussion about ARPA at a future meeting. And my question really was, when you talked about future changes, does it, under old business with the term update, allow us to have a more detailed discussion about it? Or would that be an additional agenda item or an altered agenda item to allow us to get into a lot more detail and simply?
Oh, no, if it's an agenda item that says American Rescue Plan State and Local Recovery Funds update, then that would cover it.
We can dig in. Okay. All right. That was the question. I just saw it and it reminded me of what we talked about earlier. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. From there, we have our consent agenda. And again, we've got the approval of minutes of January 19th, 2023, the regular meeting, the March 2nd, 2023 regular meeting, and then the tax refunds as noted. I have not talked to Gail about what she was not sure about with the January 19th meeting. I hate to table it again because we're going to get to the point where nobody's going to remember it anyway.
Well, also, Mr. Chair, if I may, what are the requirements of FOI? Because that's also what I'm thinking about. Don't we as a board have to have our minutes published in a timely fashion?
Yeah, we do. We have the minutes that were taken from the meeting. They're just not approved. But, like Danny said, the longer you go, the less you're going to remember. So we probably should reach out to Gail at some point. I think it could go one more meeting knowing that there's an issue with the minutes and make sure, I think, side on the or weigh in the side of correctness. But
The minutes are
draft
available.
minutes are posted.
So they're already posted, so they're available. Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure they're available because we need to
That's a
be
good
in
question.
compliance with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the drafts are up there. It's just not, whatever amended.
Yeah, I would suggest then
Minutes would
table it
have
one
been.
more time, Mr. Chairman, and let's just go to the March 2nd. Let's just give it another opportunity. I'm interested in what you have to say. Personally,
Okay.
that's just me, but
Move the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the January 2nd. I'm sorry. Move to approve the March 2nd, 2023 regular meeting and the tax refunds as listed. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Tiffany,
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
and myself, Dan Larson, aye. Okay, next would be our liaison reports. Tiffany,
I don't have anything to update at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
okay. Mark,
Tiffany, what was your team that got knocked out?
Well, they're not my team, but I picked Arizona in one of my brackets to win the whole thing. And so I'm done because they lost today. I actually root for the Providence Friars. They play tomorrow. So there you go.
Hey, me too. I got them.
Yay.
Okay.
Well,
Hey,
okay,
that's-
just one, before we finish, in 2 hours in, Tiffany, 94% of people's brackets were not perfect anymore in 2 hours in.
Wow.
6% were left that were unscathed. This was at like 4:30. So you might still be in it. You never know. You're not out of it.
All right. That's fair.
Okay, let's get going to watch basketball. I got nothing to report.
Okay. Peter
I have nothing. Thank you.
and myself, I did, but I have no idea what I did with it. And I never even gave it a thought until just now. So with that, are we going to do an executive session or are we going to wait for Gail?
It's my
think
belief,
we gotta-
Mr. Chair, that we don't have the ability to move forward as of yet, but I will say we also have to do public comment before we adjourn.
Okay, so we'll go into public comment. Thank
Good
you.
point.
Thank you. Public comment. I guess no public
Quiet.
comment.
It's quiet tonight. Nothing here.
Well, it was a busy afternoon. I think
Wow.
we'll leave it at that. Okay. Thank you all. Have a great night. We will
Move
see
to
you this
adjourn.
weekend.
Move to
Yes.
adjourn at
Oh.
8:43 p.m.
Oh, wait a minute.
Seconded.
Yes, Mark.
Seconded. I'm seconded. Let's adjourn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, yeah. Well, I don't want to cut anybody off. I apologize. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we
okay.
just had to
Great.
make the motion. Yeah.
Okay. And seconded. And I think everybody's in favor. See everybody at the Maple Fest. It's supposed to be utterly gorgeous weather, which after last Saturday, when I'm looking at the extended forecast, it's like, oh, you got to be kidding. So, any rate, thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Great day
Bye.
Good
tomorrow.
night, everyone.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Donna. Bye.